Well, we talked so much at this event already about the great resignation and retaining our top talent. And today, we want to invite our great A-list panel, starting with Joe Lockard from AUTOMAX Recruiting, who is going to lead the all-star panel that you see here on a incredible journey on this discussion. Joe, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Yeah, thanks, Ted. It's always great to be here. Number 3 here. We do have a wonderful panel. We have a new face on the panel, an old face, obviously, for Fixed Ops Roundtable conferences in general, but a new face joining the panel. I'd like to get around the room here as quick as we can. We do have a lot to get to, if you don't mind. First and foremost, our technician of the stars, Marco Zwanenberg. How are you today, Marco?
I'm great, Joe. How are you?
Good. Marco is one of the lead technicians at Naples Luxury Imports. How's 2022 treating you so far, friend?
Oh, it is good. It is good. Business is booming, so we're good. Thank you.
Good. Thanks for being here as always. Up next is one of our new panel members, Tully Williams. Tully is Fixed Ops Director at the Nilo Company. How are you, sir?
Fantastic, my friend. Glad to be here.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, man. We were joking a little bit before the show that new panel members gonna really push us to squeeze all this knowledge into 30 minutes, but looking forward to the challenge. Thanks for being here, Tully.
Thank you very much.
Next, Mike Weldon. Mike Weldon is Fixed Ops Director at Hansel Auto Group. Mike, welcome back, sir.
Hey, thank you for having me. Looking forward to this panel.
Yeah, man. How are things out on the West Coast?
Warm.
I know we talk about it every time. I swear I'm not an alcoholic, but we talk every time that you're in wine country. How are the wines this year out that way?
Well, we're going to use wine to water the plants this summer.
Oh, nice. Thanks for being on, Mike. I appreciate it. Next is Ann Lister. Ann is service manager for the Williams Auto Group. Ann, thank you for being here.
Hi, Joe. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, always a pleasure. You freezing your butt off up there with me?
Yeah, it's about 5 degrees here in upstate New York.
Solid.
Balmy 10, at the high point. So we're all good. Yeah, so I don't want to hear from Mike or Tully or Marco. Well, you all people are warm. You too, Sean. I don't care.
The best is our employees that live in Florida or California, and it's like 65 degrees out. And I check in on them. They got their hoodies on and their parkas and gloves. I'm like,
hoodies. They have their winter jackets on. Like, serious? I'd be in shorts and a t-shirt.
I know. Cracks me up. Well, Ann, thanks for joining us as always. Appreciate it. Next, my good friend Sean Kingery. Sean is Director of Fixed Ops with Step One Automotive Group. How are you doing, sir?
Good, Joe. Thank you for having me. It's an honor as always.
Yeah, man. It's great to be here. How we got to know each other a little bit over the past few months and found out you were a diehard Green Bay Packers fan and got to spend some time on the field at a game this year, right?
I did a couple times this year.
Nice, man. Good for you. Sorry it didn't work out this year.
Yeah, save me some money. Save me a Super Bowl ticket. I can say that.
Yeah, there you go, right? Well, thanks for being here, man. I appreciate it. Last, certainly not least, is Robert Stage. Robert, CEO, owner, and lead diagnostic technician for Stage One Mobile Diagnostics and Auto Repair. How are you today, sir?
Not too bad, Joe. I'd like to thank you and Ted for having me back on. I appreciate it. I'd like to thank Marco for inviting me like 6 months ago. Business is great.
Absolutely, buddy. Glad to have you.
Yep.
Yeah, I love having you on, man. And running a mobile shop, you bring a different angle to all this. It's kind of nice for all of us to get your take on everything. So thanks for being here.
Absolutely appreciate it.
All right, so like I said, I want to jump right in here. We have a lot to get through. Ted kind of alluded to it earlier in the intro that our past two panels specifically, we've talked a lot about things we have to do to try and find technicians, to recruit new technicians. And obviously I personally know, you guys all know the pain, the struggle of finding talented technicians in this labor market and really in any labor market, especially right now. With that in mind, I feel like there's never been a higher importance placed on retaining the talent that we do have. Obviously we want to be growing, we want to be adding new people. Short of that, if we're not adding new, at a very minimum, we have to keep the good ones that we have. And I'd really like to take a look at this from a proactive angle, starting with that first day. When you find someone you like, you bring them on, you onboard them, you get them there, And really the entire relationship starts on that first day. You know, this isn't, hey, it's 4 years down the road, you've had a rough relationship, and they're coming to you and saying, hey, so-and-so down the street's offering me a $2 an hour raise. Can you match it? That's really not what we're looking for here, because at that point, I think you guys know that the relationship's already damaged. And even if you keep them on, you're just kind of kicking the can down the road. So I want to try and look at this from a broader, more proactive standpoint of what can we do with the culture, tangibles, intangibles, everything across the board to make sure that we're making our technicians and all of our service and fixed ops employees, you know, feel like they're a part of something bigger than themselves. With that in mind, Marco, I do want to start with you. You know, you are an automotive technician. You are a very talented, high-skilled technician. And I'd love to hear it straight from you, my friend. And be honest, you know, don't hold back here. If it's, hey, I just want more money, that's all right. Just tell us, I just need more money. But really, I'd love to hear directly from you. And then we'll kind of take it from there and get everyone else's real-world experience with this subject as well.
All right, thank you, Joe. Well, let's start with the money part. Of course, money is important. That's why we all go to work. Everyone I work with is a great bunch of guys, but I have my friends outside of this. Having said that, you can pay me $100 an hour. You can pay me $150 an hour. But if my life is a living hell at work, it is just not worth it. My situation was a little different getting into Naples luxury imports. In 2018, had a very dramatic life change. I lost my wife, so I became a single parent to our daughter. And the dealership I was working for, I spent over a decade with the star, master certified, awarded, you name it. They said, I'm sorry, we cannot accommodate your schedule. So
Wow.
I went to another Mercedes dealership and they said the same thing. And I ended up talking to the service director at Naples Luxury Imports, which I knew because he used to work at Mercedes. And he said, I'd rather have you for 1 day a week than not at all. And it's been working out perfectly. But the great thing about this place is birthdays are acknowledged. We have a list of birthdays hanging. It doesn't matter if it's detail, sales, accounting, technicians. We do, the owner is a great guy. He is typical GM, you know, so more on the variable ops side than the fixed ops side, but he leaves the fixed ops management over to the people that know fixed ops and let them handle it. But in summertime, he has an ice cream truck come by. Everybody go get an ice cream. We have Christmas parties. We have vacation days, sick days. There's plenty of time of any kind of management in the shop, and that includes variable ops management. We're all a tight-knit group. It's not fixed versus variable. We all work together because we understand that there is no sales customer and there's no service customer. That customer is one and the same. It's a dealership customer. So it is just such a tight-knit group. We have so much fun. Of course, there's the daily struggles of having to work on these highly complicated cars, and you know, Robert will back me up on this one. It's just sometimes you're just banging your head against the wall. Now, I've been in this business for 26 years, and this has been by far the best dealership that I've landed at. It's been great. I'm glad I made this choice. Even though I had to switch brands and relearn, I have a lot of support, a lot of respect. And one of the things that always gets me is like once a month, the shop foreman walks through the shop to take a list of shop supplies. Hey, you need anything? Any tools are broken? Any this? And not anything you want, but all the necessities are in place, and that keeps it well oiled and great running.
Nice. Well, and look, I knew I should have started with you, and I'm glad I started with you because that was awesome. So thank you very much. But you almost could have stopped right like 5 minutes in. You know, you did a nice job painting the picture, but when you spoke about, you know, what you went through in life with your wife passing and the way you were treated with a previous employer, and then you go somewhere to where they get it and they want to treat you like a human being, and they want you to be a part of their family and their team. I mean, that's how you keep somebody. That's how you make someone feel wanted and feel like you actually matter. And I think a lot of the times that's what we hear from technicians as well is, you're right, the money has to be in place, the dollars have to be there, but the dollars are there at a lot of different places. There's options. I could go
Yes.
get the same money at other places, but it's those other things and treating someone with respect that I think really speaks.
It's the respect and getting back to that. Yes, we are technicians, but we are people.
Right.
We're seasonal here in Naples, so that means at this time of year, it's really work is everywhere. We can handle it. We're like 4 or 5 weeks out on appointments at this point. But don't ask me to come in at 5 in the morning and stay till like 10 at night every day to catch up on this. I'm a human being. I have my breaking point.
Yep. Yeah. And thank you again, Marco, and thanks for sharing the personal story and everything. It really means a lot. Thank you. And Robert, I want to come to you. I apologize. You know, I always forget, because you are the owner of your company, that you are still hands-on and you are still rolling up your sleeves and doing the work. And as I mentioned in the intro, I do love getting your perspective, because it's a little different than all of ours perspectives. And I know we talked on the previous one that you're even more challenged to find technicians given your business model and the fact that you guys are mobile. You know, bring in that unique perspective of you both have to recruit, keep a team together, and have been on the other side of it, you know, and still on the other side of it as far as rolling up your sleeves and doing work. You know, what matters to you and what has in the past as a technician, and what do you see as being most important to keeping your team together and making sure your company is successful?
Well, the thing that Marco went into is exactly what I was going to bring up this evening. Was a lot of times as technicians, especially in either the aftermarket or in the dealership, technicians typically are not treated as human beings sometimes. I've been on both sides of the counter. I've been a service director. I've been a service manager. I've been a technician. And there's a lot of times when I would have liked to have had a day off, or, you know, if there's, you know, any type of thing like that. Sometimes you're just not afforded those things. And when I was running Germain, Jaguar, and Land Rover, one of the things I always done as a service director was I never asked somebody why they needed the day off, what was going on. If they came to me and they had the gumption to ask, I was perfectly fine with saying, you know, as long as it doesn't damage the business, that's perfectly fine. If, you know, if you need to go, you know, you might give up one of your tickets. A technician may have to come in and, you know, make sure a customer is taken care of. But at the end of the day, I mean, everyone's human beings and everyone wants to be treated a certain way. And, you know, there's some equality that has to happen in that. So that was one of the things that I've seen, and things I don't see in shops even today still, because it is still pretty cutthroat. It's dog eat dog. And at the end of the day, I mean, you know, you have to treat your people well. You can't just continually abuse or continually, you know, act like, well, you're a machine. I have to have you do this. This has to get done.
Sure.
So.
And, you know, and like I said, I keep coming back to the money. It's funny. I made a checklist of things that I thought were important, and money's at the top, but I think it's really refreshing that we really haven't even got to that yet, you know, and I think when you do it right from get-go, that never becomes a factor. And that's all built in too. If you see someone doing a great job, you're going to give them more money. The money's going to take care of itself. But when you're treating someone like a human being and treating them with respect, their ears aren't even open. They're not even talking to AUTOMAX recruiting, because they're happy where they're at. So they're not going anywhere. So we don't even bother with them.
That's correct.
Right, thank you, Robert. I appreciate you sharing. All right. Well, switching gears a little bit, going over, back into retail world and hearing from a fixed ops director, Tully Williams. I want to throw it over to you. Based off your extensive experience running the fixed ops department for Nilo, and just building off what these two gentlemen said, what do you think is at the top of your list in regard to keeping a talented team of technicians together? That is hard to say, man.
Their stories are real, and here's where it starts. It starts with the trust when you hire the person that day. If you're going to be in business, as we are for 100 years, we all treat people with respect and honor, and it starts with your dealer, then your general manager and your managers. If your dealer and general manager don't believe in culture, culture will not be at your store. Your store must believe, no matter if you're a porter, detailer, technician, service writer, and of course the sales department, they're all people and all should be treated the same. But when it comes to technicians, which is a hard source of people to find, it starts with that trust when you first interview and talk about your store and what's different. When you walk out and they're all cooking breakfast on the flat top or they're smoking ribs in the smoker, you know you got great culture. And we can walk down and say, here's your pay plan for your path, my good friend. The pathway to $55 an hour is in writing. It starts with trust and show the culture of your store. Walk them in the back, introduce them to the team.
Absolutely. I love it. I love that you hit on day one. That's a big one for us, and it's forgotten a lot. Honestly, when Tim and I were workshopping ideas of what we want to talk about this time, I was between this and going even a step before this with onboarding and interviewing that first day, because that's when you set the stage. I mean, that person walks in, you have a resume, you have some certifications, but you don't know the person yet. I mean, you're building a relationship with a potential future employee right there, and you got to show them how you guys do it, how you run things, and that, like you said, you have a culture to begin with, and it's a culture that they want to be a part of.
100%.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Mike Weldon, I want to throw it over to you. Obviously, you have a ton of experience in this matter as well. What are you guys seeing out there? What has helped you hold on to some of your longer tenured technicians?
Well, it gets back to what two gentlemen before me said, that you got to build relationships. And you got to do it right out of the get-go. And you got to be sincere. There's a lot of people that'll give you a speech when you come in, and then when you get there, it's completely the opposite what you expected. And I work really hard to make sure that our managers stand up to the mission statement that we put into play, because that's the toughest thing. Because once you breach that trust, you lose all credibility, and then people are always looking for another avenue to go, no matter what you pay for them. Just like Marco said, it's not about pay. It's about culture. It's about relationships. We even had taken it so far that we built a voice of the technician group, that we allow these technicians to come, and managers are not allowed, and they speak their mind, and then we work off of that. So this whole culture has changed, and I think once we all grasp it and we all start to understand it, you'll see that you'll see less people moving around and more people building their future with the companies that they start with.
Right, absolutely. Can I put you on the spot and ask what the mission statement is, Mike?
Well, it's right behind me. I'll turn around, so you'll see my bald spot. Caring drives us, customers, coworkers, and community. And it's all about collaboration, community, and innovation and excellence. Took us over a year to work that out.
Nice.
And there was a lot of thought that went into that.
Yeah. Well, and I know from working with you guys, it's not fluff by any means. I mean, a lot of people can throw a mission statement on a wall, but when you're really starting there, and the entire dealership trickles down from the owner, dealer principal, variable, fixed, everyone's living that every day. People see it. That voice of the tech thing, that is genius. I'd love, man, you could record those and you could make $1 million off a YouTube channel with a hidden camera in that room. I'm telling you.
Yeah, we've even put together one of the gals that worked for us. She was in HR, and we moved her and put her into a employee relation, community relationship role, and she has pulled everything together. And she knows nothing about service. She just knows about people, and that's where you got to start.
I love it, man.
I can teach a trade. I just can't teach kindness and sincerity and trust. That has to come from the soul.
Awesome. Good stuff. Thank you for sharing, man. I appreciate that. And you're next. What, man, we've had some good stuff here. This is some feel good stuff. I really didn't expect it to go in this direction. I'm glad it did. This is awesome. This is the type of stuff that we promote internally, and the type of, hires we make, and how do we keep people on. What are some, practical applications, real life applications, things you have done up there to make sure you're keeping people happy?
So, it is absolutely about culture and trust. And as managers, we have to find out what motivates our technicians. Are they motivated by time? Are they motivated by money? Are they motivated by praise? And one thing that I've realized is, yes, everybody has a life outside of work. So, and we have to acknowledge that. So we are very flexible. I have guys come to me and say, hey, Andy, I forgot. I have a dentist appointment today. Can I go? No problem. We can usually cover, or Andy, my child is sick. I have to go home. no problem. We really have to have that work-life balance. And also another thing is, when you know your technicians and maybe after a couple days, you're like, Bob Smith is off. You have to kind of dive in because obviously maybe there's something going on outside of work that they're bringing into work. So it's very important to know your technicians and know a little bit about if they're off, find out why. Bring them in. Can I help? Do you need some time off? So those are things my technicians call it Annie love. They'll say, hey, Bob Smith needs some Annie love. So I'm like, okay, so something's going on. Not even work related, but yet it's very important to them. So I bring them in and we have a little Annie love conversation and how can I help you? What can we do? And that's, and the money, again, the money has to be there, but these other things are priceless. So if you have the flexibility, you have the understanding, and you know what motivates your team, they're not going to leave because it really is a cutthroat world out there. So for me, they all, they call me mom. I am like, listen, you're all older than me, a lot of you. But it's that nurturing. It's that, it's that caring about their life outside of work.
Right. And I love the overriding theme that you hit on there is getting to know them and getting to know what motivates, what drives, what makes each of them tick, both from a personal and a professional standpoint. Because you're right, it might not be the same motivating factor or
it's not.
what is going to put a smile on their face. And look, if it is money and they just need that financial recognition, that's fine. But it usually comes from a different place and it comes accompanied with something. It's more just the recognition and knowing that, hey, I appreciate what you're doing. Here's what we're going to do. And I keep hearing the life balance thing come up over and over again. And that's awesome.
Yeah. If there's something going on with a technician that is out of the norm, don't ignore it. Because obviously, you'll know if it's work related. And obviously, a lot of times it's not. So let them know you care and you want to help and give him that opportunity to make it right with their own personal life. Because that is, what motivates a lot of people.
Right. Absolutely. And, I appreciate you sharing all that. And I love the approach that you're taking. Sean, I'd like to kick it over to you as well. Obviously, we've had a lot of interesting things brought up. I know a lot about your group as well now from the time that we've spent together. I know how they operate. I know that they gave you some time when you needed some time recently. I'm assuming that's extended to your technicians, and you guys do a number of things to take care of your guys as well.
It is, and I know on the previous panels I've discussed, and I'll back into our story, Joe, is, I can say that I know all my technicians' names. I know my technicians' wives. I know their wives and girlfriends' names.
Wow.
And guys, we have 19 rooftops, and I'm proud to say that. I can't stand all the lube tech, but the mainline guys, you got to know what makes them tick. You have to know which technician needs a spanking every morning and which technician needs a hug. Or on the other point, you need to know what technician doesn't want you to talk to them every morning because it drives them nuts and they go off the deep end. But, kicking back to where we started this conversation, I'll go back to where Joe and I spoke a week ago, where, we hired Joe's company a while back to find us technicians. And for me, being in this business almost 28 years now, that's shocking to think you got to hire a headhunter to hire technicians. Yeah. But we did. And Joe brings us a candidate, and I'll run through the story as quick as I can. This is a candidate that comes out of New Mexico that we're going to fly to Florida. But to go above and beyond, the gentleman flies in, he arrives at midnight. I pick him up at the airport, and this isn't about me. But this is so he knows how important he is. By the way, never met the gentleman, talked to him on the phone. That's it. We pick him up, or I pick him up at the airport. I take him to the hotel. I pick him up in the morning. And then for the next 8.5 hours, we cater this guy like you've never seen before. He has an hour with the CEO. He has an hour and a half with the store director. He has an hour and a half with the technician panel to tell him that he's not a threat because the dealership he comes from, he was beat on and it's, stealing and the robbing, and we don't have that culture here. And it's how times have changed. And, by the end of the day, the poor guy's sitting in the chair. It looks like he wants to pass out because he's so tired. But he said, I've never seen anything like this. But that's where we're at now. That's what it takes. Because to your point, it doesn't take money. We pay $35 an hour with a $15 an hour bump for our production. It's $50 a flat rate hour. And in Destin, Florida, that's all the money. It's not about the money. It's about the mix. And we talked a little bit before we got on camera about, HR was in my office earlier, and I'm probably not the HR guy you want to talk to, but it's mental well-being now. And for me, being 50 years old and 28 years in the car business, what is mental well-being? That went away. Could you imagine saying that 10 years ago? But that's where we're at. It is the work-life balance that matters to people. Not everybody's built the way we are. And now we're not in whatever generation we're in now, it is a completely different culture. It's a different person. It's different people. And it takes above and beyond to recruit, above and beyond to retain, and above and beyond to make sure that they know they're important. Because I'll go back to what Marco said. They're people. You can't forget they're people. And by the way, they're high grossing people. We're making a ton of money in fixed operations.
Right. And I'm glad you brought up the example, because I didn't want to put it out there for everybody. Yeah. So thanks for mentioning that. Sean sent us the itinerary of what they were going to do with this guy once he gets into town, who he's meeting with, who he's talking with. I shot it over to my father, who's a 50-year automotive industry person, and he was blown away. He said, I've never seen anything like that. So we've come that far on the fixed op side. So this is how we are now treating even potential employees. I think it says a lot to what you have to do and the face that you have to put forward to make someone feel like they're special and bring them on board. That was awesome. We were all very impressed with the things that you did for him. So look, we didn't really get to it, and I did want to talk about money a little bit. And the reason I wanted to talk about money is just because this whole idea of, we hit on starting from the beginning, creating the culture, and those are all great, but I think you got to check in every once in a while. And I do think part of the check-in needs to be not, hey, do you want to raise, or, hey, could you use more money? But some type of outside market analysis to where you are looking at what's going on out there, what is being offered. You want to make sure you're not too far off from some of the other opportunities out there, because the things that we're talking about are great. But if there's someone else who creates a similar culture and is offering significantly more money, that can create a problem. I'm going to kind of throw it out there openly here, and any one of you are free to jump in on this. This isn't going up and asking someone if they want to raise. Have any of you done, similar kind of market analysis, recon, seeing what competitors are paying and making sure that you're competitive with your current tech?
I'll take that real quick if you don't mind, Joe, because Joe, you and I have had this conversation where you talk about competitors, and this is where I'll lean on Tully and Ann and Mike, and nothing against Robert or Marco, is you have to know who your other dealers are, because at the end of the day, they really aren't your competitors. The amount of vehicles that we're selling, guys, there's enough vehicles to go around. As Marco said, they're scheduling 3 or 4 weeks out. I've got stores 28, 20, 29 days out. They're not your competitors. You might as well get them on your side, by the way, because then you can recruit them too. But you might as well get them on your side. And listen, and I'll be very candid, when we do labor rate analysis, it's not a conflict. We talk about it. When we talk about what we're paying technicians, we talk about it. We are in a group together. You can call it a 20 group of 4 different fixed ops directors in my area, and we talk on a regular basis. They're on my side. It isn't competition. We have a gentleman's agreement that we don't rob from each other. But if Robert comes and applies with me out of respect, I'll let them know I'm going to close him. I'm going to own him, but I won't recruit him actively. And with that, guys, it stops the rolling of the toolboxes. Being from Minnesota, and I know Ted had talked about the Walzer group earlier. You had toolboxes coming and going every weekend. There's no benefit in that. All you're doing is paying to train somebody else. So again, know your competition, know your competitor, and you got to be partners with them, because they can help you or they can hurt you either way.
Now, I have to say something about the competitor part of that, Sean. Glad you brought it up, but we should look further than just other dealers. HVAC, electricians, marine, plumbers. There's a lot of our exactly. Thank you, Robert. There's a lot of our talents that like Robert and I have, that can be easily transferred with a little bit of training and certifications to a high-paying job with half the stress of the dealership world. Because let's face it, automotive industry, no one chose it because we didn't want any stress.
Yeah, right.
So that's our competitors too. So we have to look at that. And I think that one of the problems is that I'm hearing it all the time on LinkedIn. Oh, there's a technician shortage. There's no technician shortage. For such a long time, fixed ops has seen technicians as just the the wreck of the mud. A dime a dozen guys that just, we're highly skilled, highly trained. When is the last time you had a salesperson pay for their own computer, on their own tablet, their own paper, their own paper clips? We invest hundreds of thousands of dollars in the tools that we work with every day. Our knowledge is just bar none. All the training we have to go through on a continuous basis. And for the longest time, it was just like, oh, technicians. Now, all of a sudden, everyone was like, oh, boo-hoo-hoo, we can't find anyone. No, because you kicked us out because you didn't treat us as human beings. Money is secondary. Pay me what I'm worth.
Yep.
Simple. But
Yep.
first and foremost, I'm a human being. I want respect. I want dignity. I want input.
Yeah, great points. I'm glad you brought up the other industries because that's what we see on the recruiting side more often than not. And we've talked about it on the panel. It's not so much about leaving to go to another dealership, another independent repair shop. It's I'm done working on cars, period. I'm going to go to another industry and use my mechanical skills and be taken care of the way I deserve to be taken care of. Tully, did you want to jump in? It looked like you had a few things to say too.
I think that when you look at, we're talking about tech wages. I think that,
Yeah.
we have a technician that retired at 52 years. We actually named the service drive by his name, Mr. Luke. But I think it starts with making sure your market, as Sean said, he's spot on. We're not in competition. We have a lot of luxury brands. I'm not in competition with the Mercedes-Benz store. But I think that we want to make sure that we're competitive. But we also need to make sure that the technicians know the pathway for a raise. They need to know that if they are working, just because they work here a long time, doesn't mean they get a pay raise. But if they want to train, we pay. We pay for anything. If we want to train and hit those markers, we're going to pay you more money. And we want to give raises in between that. So the pathway in California, of course, we have to start at $30, but the pathway is to $55, and there is a pathway there. So when the guy comes in like, can you give me a raise? We're going to go out. You passed the test. You got a raise. Hallelujah. Make it fun. God bless America.
There it is.
Knew it was coming.
I was waiting for that, Tully.
Yeah.
I was waiting for
We
that.
always are.
He didn't let you
Thanks,
down.
Thanks, Tully.
Wow. Hey, Joe, you've done this 3 times. This has got to be the best panel by far.
Yeah, man. It's just going to keep
better.
getting better. My job's easy. These guys take it.
And look at the direction. Several directions this has gone, right? And I hear, Tully, a recurring theme throughout the Fixed Ops Roundtable since your keynote is that culture. And Sean, it means so much throughout the whole dealership, and listening to what Marco and what Robert have to say, it's really key. And your conversations are very real world. What you're sharing with us, and Mike, I didn't pay enough attention to the fact that you've got that whole mission statement built right into the logo behind you there, and I know that Justin and Dave and yourself have worked very hard, to build that and to make it what it is. I could see folks doing that. So, Joe, we got to come back. We got to do this again.
Yeah, anytime, man. I'm always here.
I love it. So, Joe, if our audience wants to reach out to you and work with you at AUTOMAX Recruiting, as I see that some of you are already doing here on the panel, Joe, how do we get a hold of you at AUTOMAX?
Yeah, so our website is automaxrecruitingandtraining.com. Probably easier to find me on social media, LinkedIn, Facebook. My email and cell phone are there at the bottom if you ever just want to call and pick my brain and see what we're seeing and hear what we're hearing. I'm always available.
And I see that you're picking up a lot of best practices. I love what Sean shared with us, about what he did with the technician and the itinerary and the agenda and the whole
Very
thing.
impressive.
And Joe, you're doing a whole lot with fixed operations, more and more from what I see now.
Yeah, I mean, we're at, probably 65-70% of our overall recruiting is in the fixed ops world. It's really flipped for us in the past 3 years.
Yeah, I think it's going to only grow.
Yes, sir.
Joe Lockhart, everybody here today with the all-star panel at the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.